Good morning, dear colleagues and friends. My name is Kristina Mauer-Stender and I serve as Regional Advisor on Tobacco Control at the WHO Regional Office for Europe. Thank you sincerely for the invitation to present at ASH Scotland's Learning Day today. It is a privilege to be with you today. Being here feels in many ways like coming home. I spent many years working with the tobacco control community, stepped away for a time, and now return after 7 years with renewed perspective, but also with a strong sense of continuity. The people, the commitment, and the purpose remain deeply familiar. What I see is encouraging. We have made real progress, lives have been saved, norms have changed, policies once thought impossible are now standard. And yet, the challenge before us remains complex, and in some respects, more urgent than ever. Today, I'm not here to lecture. This room contains extraordinary expertise: health leadership, health policy, research, enforcement, education, health promotion, and I could go on and on. Instead, I would like to share a perspective grounded in evidence, in regional and global experience, and in our shared responsibility to protect future generations. Let me begin with figures that many of you know well, not because they are new, but because they remind us why this work remains essential. In the WHO European region, tobacco causes 1.1 million deaths every year. Nearly 1 in 4 adults still use tobacco. Our region accounts for 40% for all female smokers worldwide. I find it unbelievable and shocking. And 150,000 people die annually from exposure to secondhand smoke. Tobacco is not only a health issue, it's an economic issue, a social issue, a development issue. It deepens inequalities, it strains public systems, and it continues to take lives prematurely every single day. So while progress is undeniable, the epidemic is not behind us. This is particularly relevant for our region, Europe, which has the second slowest rate of decline in tobacco use worldwide. By the end of 2025, we observed only a 19% reduction instead of agreed 30% of reduction in tobacco use. At the same time, we still carry the highest prevalence globally. This tells us something important. Progress exists, but it is uneven. And overall, we are not yet on track. The epidemic is not disappearing, it is evolving, and our response must evolve with equal determination. Globally, we do see encouraging movement. Tobacco use has declined from 1.4 billion users in the year 2000 to 1.2 billion in 2024. And since 2010 alone, 120 million fewer people are using tobacco. Today, 155 countries have implemented at least one WHO Empower measure at best practice level, protecting over 6.1 billion people. And this is 3/4 of the world's population. This is a major public health achievement of historic significance. But alongside this progress, we observe a new development. For the first time, WHO has estimated global e-cigarette use to be at more than 100 million users worldwide, among them 86 million adults, largely in high-income countries, and 15 million children aged 13 to 15. This means we are now addressing a challenge on 2 fronts. One front is conventional tobacco, where harm is indisputable and unfinished work remains. And the second front involves rapidly evolving nicotine products, marketed aggressively and reaching young people at alarming speed. In the WHO European region, the situation is especially concerning. Among adults, 4.6% currently use e-cigarettes, and this is more than double of the global average. Among adolescents, again age group 13-15 years old, 14.3% use e-cigarettes, the highest prevalence of any WHO region, representing an estimated 4.2 million children. And children are, in average, 9 times more likely than adults to use e-cigarettes. This pattern is not a simple story of harm reduction. It is a signal that youth uptake is outpacing adult cessation, and that demands our attention in order not to be in the situation of no harm reduction, but harm creation. Scotland's ambition to become tobacco-free by 2034 is bold, principled, and deeply aligned with global public health leadership. 20 years after the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, Scotland stands close to gold standard implementation in many areas. And that is an achievement to recognize. But ambition requires continued courage. The diversity of views in this room on how to reach that goal is not a weakness, it is a strength, provided we remain anchored in evidence, in shared values, and in our collective vision of tobacco-free future. On emerging products, I want to acknowledge openly that perspectives differ. Some see potential benefits for adult smokers, others are deeply concerned about risks to future generations. Heated tobacco products are tobacco products. They are not proven cessation tools. For e-cigarettes, the evidence is more nuanced. Under tightly controlled circumstances, some individuals may quit smoking, but at the population level, they are not demonstrating clear cessation impact, and we see continued nicotine dependence. Recent UK evidence shows overall nicotine use among young people is increasing. Public health must always look beyond individual cases to population trends and long-term consequences. This is why the precautionary principle remains vital, and why it was reaffirmed strongly again at the most recent conference of the parties of the WHO FCTC in November last year. At its core, this conversation is not about products. It is about the right to health. It is about children's rights. It is about the right of future generations to grow up free from engineered addiction. The upcoming World No Tobacco Day in May reflects this clearly, unmasking the appeal, countering nicotine and tobacco addiction. We see new nicotine products evolving faster than regulation. Designs resemble sweets, flavors engineered for attraction, promotion amplified by social media and influencers. Globally, at least 40 million children aged 13 to 15 use tobacco or nicotine products. This is not accidental. It reflects deliberate strategies that require deliberate policy responses. Scotland's smoke-free legislation 20 years ago demonstrated that courageous health leadership can achieve. The question today is not whether Scotland can lead again. It is whether we will extend protections to match today's realities. Across the WHO European region, the direction of travel is clear. Full implementation of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, closing loopholes exploited by new products, stronger enforcement, and decisive action on the drivers of youth uptake: attractiveness, affordability, availability, and promotion. And let's be clear, this is not opposition to innovation. It is a commitment to placing public health, especially children and adolescents and their health, first. That commitment also requires vigilance against tobacco industry interference. The United Kingdom's performance in the 2025 Global Tobacco Industry Interference Index, ranked 17th out of 100 countries, shows that even strong tobacco control leaders remain vulnerable to industry influence. Sustaining progress depends not only on ambitious policy, but on actively protecting it from vested commercial interests. I fully understand the context in which you work: political cycles, low level of trust, constrained budgets, competing and changing priorities. But history shows that Scotland's greatest public health achievements came when it chose leadership over hesitation. The opportunity now is to be ambitious, to aim for excellence, not minimum compliance, to look beyond alignment and towards leadership, to see Scotland's role within a global movement. And let me close with a personal reflection here. What reassures me most, returning to this field, is not only the policies or the evidence, it is the people. This community remains principled, persistent, and courageous in speaking difficult truths. The tobacco epidemic is evolving, and so must we. If we remain guided by evidence, by solidarity, and by the rights of children and adolescents, Scotland's tobacco-free 2034 ambition need not remain a dream. It can become a legacy, one that protects generations to come. And in that spirit, I wish Ash Scotland every success in encouraging candidates in the upcoming Scottish Parliament election to make tobacco control and public health improvement a top priority. Thank you, and I wish you thoughtful, constructive, and inspiring discussions today. Thank you.